The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
This is a real pleasure for me. The amount of people now, quote, as investigative reporters, as people digging for the truth on who Barack Obama is, seems to grow exponentially every day. Please say good morning. And I don't believe we've ever spoken before. Please say good morning to Dr. Jason Kistner as our guest. He is an associate professor of criminology at California State in Fresno. Doc, good morning, man. I know you're up early, so thanks for doing this with us in Denver.
Oh, good morning. It's really good to be with you.
Yeah, I feel like Captain Ahab in this story for almost, well, certainly 9 years and pushing more. We have chased Ahab's whale, who is Barack Obama. And I was mentioning this earlier, after being called a racist, a Nazi, a Klansman, I added silver shirt to that on my own. But you got a list of you're the worst human being that ever, sucked wind because you keep asking these questions, of course, and we already know his life story. He presented it to us, and in fact, it was interesting to see D'Souza get indicted. I had a couple of go-rounds on him that weren't fun. And here you come. So first of all, if you would, a little bit about yourself and how you got into the fray.
Sure. Well, I am a criminologist. I've investigated gang-related phenomena. More recently, I've turned my attention to the study of mass murder. And I suppose I got interested in studying phenomena associated with Obama, partly because I think his policies are horrendous, but also because he's such a mysterious figure.
Yeah.
And I find it a little bit unsettling that the mainstream media simply refused to probe even fundamental subject matter about this guy.
Or better yet, and I use this example, it's like the church in the Middle Dark Ages. When anyone said something that was contrary to their theology, you were a heretic. And that's what they have done with this story. I say the progressives, the left, and the mainstream press. Anyone who dares ask a question automatically becomes a racist, Doctor.
Well, yeah, I really like the way you characterize that. It's really a very, I think, duplicitous way ultimately for them just to completely shut down substance, shut down debate.
Well, worse than that, I've been cartooned in the Denver newspapers. Now there's only one. Columns written about how dare we, the jacket of birther, which I wear proudly. And, when you call these people up and you ask them to appear on your radio show, they say, I will not appear on your hate show, or they simply don't come, they won't return a phone call.
Well, from what I can gather, you guys out there are competing with San Francisco for the title of the most socialist city in the United States.
It's getting there, brother. It's getting there.
Yeah.
So, so you got when in terms of time did you realize that this story wasn't true?
Gosh, that's a good question. I would say, initially my investigation of his biography centered on his claim that he's a Christian, and I did.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I did submit something to American Thinker on that, and did get some feedback on it. But I just found I read the two autobiographies, which arguably were written by Ayers, not Obama.
Agreed.
And it just seemed to be preposterous after having done so, and then done additional background research. His claims as to being a Christian are just ludicrous. They're simply incorrect.
Reverend Wright has come out and said those kinds of things. And, Wright himself was a Muslim at one time, and Wright's an interesting character. But we talk about somebody that doesn't exist anymore. But Wright wrote openly about taking, and this time I don't believe he's a senator yet, but how he takes and tries to find a pathway for Barack Obama to meld his Islamic beliefs into those of a modern Christian. You've read that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I did read that. My personal view is that Obama is more of an atheist than he is a Muslim.
Probably. Yeah.
My sense of it is that what he does is he uses institutions, and he molds institutions, manipulates institutions to, for political purposes and to advance his career.
The press is a great example of that. As I said, not only don't they speak about it, but those of us who do are jacketed by those people. And one of the great things that Joel Gilbert has said to the Washington Press Club, he said, there's a Pulitzer Prize for anybody in this room that wants to go get it.
Oh, unquestionably there is.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, even basic forms of inquiry. Mm-hmm.
So now comes this discovery, if you would, of these Stanley and Soturo, the apps, and we have them up on our website, 710knus.com, and we put up there just to make the case this morning, the so-called certificate of live birth that has his father's race as African because of the bizarreness of the death of Loretta Fuddy, who was the woman who releases all of this. Now, take it from the top. When people look at these documents, 710knus.com, Doctor, what do they see?
Are you referring to the birth certificate copy?
No, but come back to the 68 apps and the second page of the apps as well, the applications.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the passport application, right?
Yes, and then we'll talk about the certificate.
Okay. Well, if you look at the passport renewal application, you'll see on the second page that it says Barack Hussein Obama, and then in parentheses it's got Soebarkah. And intriguingly, there's also Barack Hussein Soebarkah is crossed out. And if you look at the bottom of the first page of the passport renewal application, which he submitted in 1968, it shows in fine print that you're supposed to cross somebody's name out if, for example, they become a naturalized citizen of another country. So that's an interesting aspect there. But essentially, one gets to wonder exactly what this, I called it a sobriquet in the article, what it means. So that's sort of what prompted the article.
And so the second page, Stanley Ann moves to what? Take her son. But where does the other name come from? And we spoke with Jerry Corsi. I've spoken with Joel Gilbert. I mean, everybody arrives at the same place. All roads lead to Rome, but they've also come up with GYs, and they're close. Why would she choose this name? Is it to do with the cult? Is it to do with, and Jerry's pretty accurate, and Jerry said, no, it means the son of Soturo. Mm-hmm. And as you know, you had to be a citizen to go to school there, and you had to be a Muslim. Now, he's a little kid. I mean, 7, 8 years of age, and what your parents do when you're 7 or 8, you don't have much to do with. But did he ride that into getting scholarship money and other things, either at high schools or colleges or getting into Columbia or Harvard? Did he continue to be a dual citizen? Did he proclaim to be a foreign national? Did he change? I mean, who the hell is he?
Well, I'm not a linguist, right? I have seen many people have suggested that Soebarkah, S-O-E, maybe is a prefix that means son of. Mm-hmm. As far as I can gather, it indicates more geographical consideration, that is Javanese.
Right.
So I'm not too sure about that. But some of the other things that you mentioned, I found it very interesting, the literary agent document that was released that proclaimed that Obama was born in Kenya.
No, indeed. We've seen that.
Right. And, I found that very persuasive evidence, certainly at a minimum, that that's how he represented himself.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's a story about getting the advance, then not producing the book, and then the book, and then he goes to, of all places, where's he go? He goes to Mali, or not to Mali, to Mali. And he goes there and comes back.
Right. So a bunch of fun in the sun, and then he has Ayers write the book anyway.
And then Bill Ayers writes the book. I mean, Jack Cashill clearly believes that, as do others.
Yeah.
But at that, when
So there's no evidence whatsoever that Obama is a competent writer.
well, worse so, everybody has a ghost. We talk about that when politicians write books. It's always there's another name with. It would be Obama's birth certificate, by Barack Obama with you or with that kind of thing. There's no with here. This is his book, and Ayers clearly wrote the book. But having said that, the people when the woman brings him in, she meets him and she thinks he's a book. They put down on his app. Now I don't know if he told her that or she, how it says birthplace. What's it say?
Yeah, he has to have told her, would be my view. Is she just going to generate that out of thin air?
No, of course not.
That seems
all the countries
very unlikely.
Have all the countries in the world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he made that representation to her.
I agree.
Yeah.
Let me do this. Let me put you on hold because we'll come back and talk. This is terrific. We have never spoken before. Doctor, he's a PhD. Jason Kistner is our guest, and he did the great piece again on what we're now seeing in, as you have said, the unexplained mysteries and the scanty documentation in the life of the 44th President of the United States. I'm going to come back to this, Doctor, before you continue to I want you to talk about the certificate itself. And again, I'm always stumped. Why the MSM, as they say, the mainstream press, and anybody, even like the straights are afraid of this story. What are we watching happen?
Well, what I think you're watching happen is very strange. It's simultaneously, the answer to your question, I think, is simultaneously obvious. But let me put it this way: what we don't know about Obama is obviously extensive. Even fundamental questions have not been answered. But what I find equally intriguing is that what we do know about Obama is very unsettling.
Yeah, it's not true, yeah.
And it's not true, and it hasn't been followed up in many cases. But, I think that many people who are concerned about what the truth is of his biography simply aren't willing to consider the possibility that he did not just materialize from nowhere.
Boy, that's certainly what Gilbert believes, and others believe that this guy he's been manufactured, which is so bizarre.
Oh yeah, he's to me beyond question he's been manufactured. Beyond question.
All right,
I just don't see how a reasonable person could come to any other conclusion.
Go to the website 710 KNUS. Now, I have this theory when this thing first happened, and I said this birth certificate was generated on what's called a PDF file. I don't know much about computers or anything like that. But it was done by the guy that I created called Jimmy Down the Hall. The night flight when that woman lawyer from the Seattle law firm that's connected to Obama on a commercial airliner brings a PDF file to Washington, D.C., and it's dropped just as Corsi's about to publish this blockbuster book. And at that point, it was like the Denver Post, Rocky Mountain News, local outlets, 9/7, Brian Williams, they went nuts. Here's the real truth, a certificate of live birth. No one examines it, and I believe, this is personal belief, that woman just flies commercial as a mask. But they have on this, and you can go to the website, 710knus.com. It says race of father, and underneath that it says African. Now, Jerry and Gilbert and so many great folks have done research 5 years before, 5 years after this 1961 date. They've gone to 66. They went back into the first part of the 50s. They cannot find one other black man or woman given the designation of African. Now, African's not a race. And I think, and this is my personal belief, it's like saying, what is your race? Well, I'm an American. No, you're not. Yes, you're an American citizen, but you're not an American race. And so what I think happened was Jimmy Down the Hall, who's a little politically correct, 2000, then it was 2012, little geek, and he was assigned this. He can't say Negro. It's impossible. He cannot say Negro. He can't say colored. He's been so, beaten into that you can't say those words. No, I'm serious as a heart attack. And so
I know what you're saying.
And so Jimmy invents, he can't say African American because that's not a race. So he comes up with African. And if you could find one other birth certificate from Hawaii that said African, either for the mom or the dad, because they used the proper term, Caucasian, for Stanley Ann. She, race of mother, Caucasian. So you know they know that Jimmy knows race, but Jimmy can't say the other things.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.